Hello, my beautiful keto family. In this video, we're going to go over how you can possibly reverse type 2 diabetes. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Talita from Shrinking with Keto. And at the early age of 32, I had a hysterectomy performed, tossing me directly into the menopausal pool, adding an extra 40 pounds to my already morbidly obese existence. Now, throughout my ketogenic journey, I have lost over 190 pounds. I reversed my diabetes type 2 and claimed my life back naturally. And since then, it has become my obsession to help you claim your life back now. Full disclaimer, I am not a nurse, nor a doctor, nor a medical professional of any kind. All and every single bit of information that I provide you within my videos is based on my own very extensive research and my personal experience, alongside people that I have helped and coached. And I hope that it is more than enough to help you. Let's start by defining what type 2 diabetes is. It's a condition that affects the way your body metabolizes sugar, glucose. Now, this is usually caused by insulin resistance. And to understand how we can reverse this, we need to understand what insulin resistance is first. Every time we eat, our body converts some of our food into glucose, simple sugars, so that we can use it for energy. This glucose is in our bloodstream. In order for glucose to go into our cells, our tissues, it needs insulin to take it there. So every time we have glucose entering our bloodstream, our pancreas releases insulin to match it. And that all works great until it doesn't. You see, our cells do not have unlimited storage to store this glucose. And so when there is excess glucose, this happens. Our body produces more insulin in order to stuff that glucose into the tissues. And this eventually causes tolerance to this insulin, or insulin resistance. Dr. Jason Fung explains this with a great example using drugs or alcohol. The first time you consume any of these substances, they give you a specific effect. Now, the more you consume these substances, whether drugs or alcohol, the greater the amount that you need to take in order to have that same effect that you had in the beginning with just one. And that is because your tolerance level changes. Well, the same thing happens in our body with insulin. It creates a tolerance, a resistance. Eventually, your cells don't respond well to insulin and cannot use glucose from your blood for energy. Now, this causes your blood sugar levels to go up. So does everything we eat causes insulin levels to spike? The answer is no, at least not to the same intensity. Everything we eat falls into one of three macronutrient categories: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Each one of these has a very different effect on glucose and insulin. Every time we eat carbohydrates, our insulin levels spike because carbohydrates turn into simple sugars in our body, glucose. From the three macronutrients, carbohydrates have the highest spike in insulin. Right under the carbohydrates are the proteins. They do not spike insulin as much, but they still spike it to a certain level. But unlike sugars and carbohydrates, fat has little to no immediate effect on blood glucose levels. So basically, this is the vicious cycle we're in. We eat carbs, we spike insulin. Within an hour, insulin makes us hungry, and it increases fat storage. And we eat again, and we spike insulin again, and this goes on and on and on. According to Dr. Sarah Hallberg, this is how the medical community treats patients with type 2 diabetes. The general guidelines for patients with diabetes type 2 suggests that they eat 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per meal, spiking their insulin levels and sending them back into this vicious cycle. Dr. Hallberg calls diabetes type 2 carbohydrate toxicity. Carbohydrate. One of the ways the medical community treats diabetes type 2 patients is by giving them more insulin, since they're insulin resistant. Now, by taking more insulin, your blood sugar levels might go too low. So what do you have to do? Eat more carbohydrates. You see the vicious cycle over and over again. And the more insulin they take, the more the resistance is there, so the more insulin they have to take. And that's why doctors keep prescribing higher and higher doses of insulin. And all this happens because type 2 diabetes is non-reversible. BS. Type 2 diabetes is reversible. Maybe not for everybody, but for a large part of the population, it is nutritionally reversible. So we know that carbohydrates spike insulin and are turned into glucose in our body. And we know that fat basically is a flat line, spiking no insulin or very little. Oh, and if there only was a way to not eat carbs and eat fat, well, there is. The ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is a high-fat, moderate protein, very low carbohydrate diet. And it is the diet that saved my life. Oh, but please do not just take my word for this. An ongoing clinical trial that started off as 2 years but was way too interesting to stop it there, provided evidence that putting and maintaining a patient in nutritional ketosis allowed them to reverse insulin resistance while removing medications. And in over 50% of those cases, within the first 2 years, they removed their medication completely and reversed their diabetes type 2. Let me interrupt you for a second. Now, if this is the first time you're seeing this pretty face, let's make sure it's not the last. So please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and click that bell icon so that YouTube can let you know every time I have a new video. Please feel free to ask any questions you want underneath in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer every single one of them. There is 2 ways to reverse diabetes type 2 based on the guidelines that we just said. One way is following a ketogenic diet. Very important. It is very important that we make sure that our fats come from healthy sources in order to reduce any inflammation that might be caused. Now, if you want to start a ketogenic diet, you can go ahead and check my video on how to start keto and also download the complete free printable list of all the essential foods you need to eat on the ketogenic diet in the description below. The second approach is by following intermittent fasting. While we intermittent fast, we allow these storages to be depleted. But the best marriage and combination is keto and intermittent fasting. Using intermittent fasting in combination with the ketogenic diet is exactly what I did to lose 190 pounds and reverse my diabetes type 2. Within only the first 3 months of following a strict ketogenic diet, I was already under the diabetes marker. Now, don't just take my word for it. There are plenty of studies that are still ongoing, and they are studying how type 2 diabetic patients are getting off their medications, are reversing their diabetes, all throughout a ketogenic lifestyle. And there you have it, my own personal opinion, based on information and extensive research and a lot of studies about how you can reverse your type 2 diabetes nutritionally. Oh, and the most important thing of all, chin up or the crown slips.